Hello and welcome back to another video. Now if you watched my last video, you already know that I'm in Scotland. If you didn't, I'm in Scotland and I'd like to introduce you to the Findhorn Valley. What a truly magnificent location. Now we've been here before. We came to the Findhorn Valley last February with the intention of photographing mountain hares, and I did get some photograph of mountain hares while we were here, which I'll pop up on the screen now for you to see. The only downside was I wanted to photograph them in the snow. So while we've been on the Christmas break, I've noticed that we've had a dump of snow up in Scotland, and I thought, right, we can't waste this opportunity. Before I go back to work, let's get back up into Scotland and see if we can photograph those mountain hare in the snow. And as you can see from the mountain behind me, there's a serious lack of the white stuff. There is patches of white on the side of the mountain where we're going to climb up to hopefully photograph the mountain hare. It's sketchy though. And to be honest with you, where the light is falling onto the mountain, there's no snow whatsoever. So I think we're going to be very, very lucky to see any mountain hare in the snow. Fingers crossed we'll see some mountain hare today, and I'll bring you some photographs and some video. So come along for the journey and see what I see. The Findhorn Valley is quite a large area, and obviously the mountain hare is not a huge animal. So you're literally going to have to go with places where you know for certain that mountain hare are in residence. And fortunately I came here last year with a guide. Now he had a fantastic tool for mountain hare, and that was a thermal imaging camera. And we could drive up the road on the side of the Findhorn Valley, get right up into the valley with a mountain slope on the side, and then he'd use the thermal scope to be able to find the mountain hare. And he literally put me on top of them and then left it to me and my fieldcraft to be able to get close enough for the photographs. I don't have a thermal imaging scope yet, so I'm going to have to use my trusty binoculars. And I always think whenever you're doing this kind of photography where you're looking for a small subject in a large area, binoculars are your best friend, and then a little bit of tracking to be able to find them. But one thing's for certain, we've got some climbing ahead of us because they're not down in the valleys. So I found my first mountain hare. It's actually on the lower reaches of the hill, not near any snow as I predicted, and not in the best light, but it's probably worth a look at. So I think I'm going to just pick my way across, see if we can get in a decent range to get some photographs. Now one of the things that's worth noting when you're photographing mountain hares is one of the worst things that you can do is to walk directly at them. If you walk directly at them, they will perceive you as a threat and they will always run up the hill. And they naturally run up the hill to evade predators because their number one predator is the golden eagle. The reason the mountain hare runs up the slope to evade the golden eagle is the golden eagle loses altitude as the mountain hare climbs up. So at times the mountain hare will actually run at the golden eagle up the mountain to evade it, but it's taken away its arsenal of altitude to be able to come down and strike at the hare. So they naturally run uphill. So when you're approaching them, if you approach using a zigzag motion, never holding eye contact with them, and just kind of move slowly, zigzagging up towards them, you can usually get a little bit closer. And then what I do, as I'm approaching them, I will take some photographs, get a little bit closer, take some photographs, get a little bit closer, and just use that method so that if I do get too close, and I try to make sure that I back off before, but some mountain hares let you get quite close, some won't let you get anywhere near them. So by using this method, I usually get some photographs rather than nothing at all. You'll have to excuse me for being out of breath, but I think it was worth it. I've traversed ever so slowly up the side of this mountain, and I got, I would say, within 15 metres where it stayed, and I got some video which I'll pop up on the screen now if I haven't already done so, and I got some beautiful photographs of it. The light's not perfect, it's better up on the ridge, which is where we're going to head to next, but I've got one in the bag, and for me that's the most important part. Get a shot, not a wasted visit, and at that point you can start to relax and enjoy your photography. I think all my pieces to camera are going to be me out of breath. I need to get in that gym and get fit. But what a fantastic experience in what has got to be one of the most breathtaking vistas on the planet. It is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I hope you're enjoying this every bit as much as I am, because it is incredible. Findhorn Valley in the Cairngorms National Park. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. People are going to start calling me the short-eared owl whisperer. I'm in the Findhorn Valley to photograph mountain hare, and a short-eared owl flies right across in front of me and then lands on some rocks to the side. I've got a couple of photographs which are only really record shots. I had the teleconverter engaged and I was in crop sensor mode, so probably not far off 800mm, and it was still quite far away. But wow, short-eared owl in the Findhorn Valley, incredible. Now I've still got quite a climb ahead of me, although I think the steepest section has been completed. I'm going to climb up onto the ridge that's just behind me. I'll move the camera down, you can see just behind me, and then I'm going to traverse along the ridge looking for the hare. So we're nearing the top now, and as we've come over the ridge there's a second valley, and down in the valley must be at least 100 red deer. Incredible to just see how many there are. I mean, you never see herds as big as that anywhere near where we live. It's at least 100 strong, if not larger. I mean, they're a long way away. I'd say they're at least a kilometre, if not a kilometre and a half away. I'll try and get a little bit of footage on the camera, but there'll be specks, I think. So I'm in one of the high valleys now, where there's plenty of snow. It is bitterly cold, however. I would say the temperature is probably well below freezing now, and there is quite a biting wind, which might not be doing wonders for my audio. In all honesty, I saw more hare in the lower valley than I have in the upper valley, and it may be that it's just too cold up here. Although they're perfectly equipped for the cold weather, I would imagine that perhaps there's more food in the lower valleys. I've just got to be very careful about where I'm putting my feet, because the ground is frozen solid and quite slippery. And what I'm doing as I'm moving, I'm traversing now and trying to maintain the same altitude so I'm not climbing or I'm not falling. And the whole time I'm scanning the hillside, and every now and again I'm stopping, I'm getting out the binoculars and I'm having a good scan of the hillside looking for mountain hare. The aim will be, and it will pay off, if I can find some mountain hare in the snow. So I'm going to spin the camera around and show you where I'm heading. So we're off up into this area here where you can see there's plenty of snow and hopefully some mountain hare. It is freezing. So after spending probably about an hour up on the ridge and on the summit and seeing absolutely nothing up there, I decided to come back down into the valley. Saw a lot more hares in the valley than we did up on the top. So hopefully, we're not going to get them in the snow, but hopefully we'll get a few on the mountainside. And it would be nice to get to see some more. I mean, the conditions were ideal up there. The sunlight was there, you'd got the snow. There was a bitterly cold wind, but there just didn't seem to be a lot in the way of mountain hare. And I suppose when the weather's really harsh, it makes sense for them to come down into the valleys. I'd have thought they'd have been up where the snow was, because that's where the camouflage pays off. But I suppose with all the ground being frozen, food being frozen, it makes more sense for them to be in the valley. So we'll be back down into the valley and see if we can find a few more. How about that? No sooner we got back down into the valley, I was straight onto another mountain hare. That one was really confident. It let me get to probably within about 10 metres. You'll see from the video that I had the teleconverter engaged, so I was at 560, and then I was in crop mode, so probably 800mm. And it was a frame filling shot for the video. And then I zoomed back out, disengaged the teleconverter, and was shooting at 400mm at 2.8. Absolutely stunning. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is when you're photographing them against this brown heather, you really need to compensate your exposure for the fact that you're shooting what is a small white subject against a dark background. It's very easy to blow your highlights. So I'm using the exposure compensation almost at a full stop down. I want to protect those highlights. I can recover those, I can increase the exposure ever so slightly in the edit. But it's very difficult to recover highlights that have blown, if not impossible. And these hares, when you look at the images, if you've not got your exposure compensation engaged, it's very easy to do that. So I would encourage you, unless you're photographing them in the snow, at which point the camera in matrix mode will become setting the exposure to the white background and the white hare, so your exposure will be absolutely spot on. But when you're photographing a white hare against a dark background, you really need to dial down that exposure. Just something for you to consider. for me, that is exactly how wildlife photography should be done. I'd say we've probably got within 5 meters of that hare, which some people might say is too close. But what I would say in response to that is his behaviour didn't change. So as I said a bit earlier in the video, it's all about looking at your subject, reading their body language. He was happily chewing away, probably chewing on a piece of the heather or something that he's eating, happily chewing away. And so I was able to just inch my way forward, and I did that from, at first I used the zigzag method, and I got to probably within about 10 meters using the zigzag method, and at that point I'm still stood up, no eye contact with it, just using my periphery vision to be able to keep my eye on the hare, make sure that it's not getting stressed. And then once I get to 10 meters, at that point I drop down onto the floor and I crawl very, very slowly, inch by inch, and the whole time looking at the body language. Are the ears changing? Is it starting to look like it's tensing up in preparation to flee? And as long as it doesn't do that, I just inch forward, inch forward, inch forward, until I got to a position where, for me, I was close enough. I don't need to be any closer than that. I've got a big lens. I was able to get some fantastic shots. And the beauty of this lens is I can drop down to 400mm and get a bit more of its habitat around it, engage the teleconverter, get a bit more of a shot filling, frame filling shot, and at times use the crop mode to completely get those more intimate shots of the hare. No snow around it, but I think I'll be able to get some quite nice low-key images, black and white images, which is what I quite like to do the mountain hare in, because the surrounding vegetation for the mountain hare was so dark that it really will lend itself to some low-key images, very similar to ones that I've produced in the past, but it doesn't matter, because for me they make some really, really magical photographs. We're going to head back to the car now, I think, and grab a sandwich, and then I'll probably come out for the last sort of hour of daylight. I don't think we're going to get any sunset here. I think the sunset's in the valley behind, so we probably had the best of the light. I actually don't think that the sun ever comes into the Findhorn Valley. I think it's constantly in shadow. But you go with what you've got. It's not dark. I was able to have really low ISO numbers. You know, there's plenty of light there. We're just not going to get any of that golden light, but to be honest with you, I don't care. That encounter was absolutely magical. I could almost hear it munching away, and if it's munching away, it's quite happy with me being there. So there you have it, the Findhorn Valley. One of Scotland's most fantastic areas to come to photograph the mountain hare. Just been speaking to two gentlemen on the way down, and they've come purely to look for eagles. And eagles is something that when I came last time with the guide, this valley is synonymous for is eagles, golden eagle obviously. And I'm not surprised, because there's such a plentiful amount of mountain hare, which is something that the golden eagles do eat, particularly during the winter months when there's not a lot of anything else for them to eat. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Thanks very much to those people who've bought me a coffee. If you want to buy me a coffee on this time, I'll pop a link at the bottom of the screen for you to see. There'll also be a link in the description. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be in Lochgarten, so that'll be another video that I put out to you. And that place is one of the best places to see crested tits. And in the winter time, when there's no food up in the canopy, most of these birds are coming down to the feeders that have been put out for them. So there's a real good chance of getting some quite close shots of the crested tits. There'll be other birds there at the same time. There's usually great tits and coal tits, but it's the crested tits that we'll be looking for. Then we'll be travelling home, and on the way home we're going to go over the Glen Feshie pass. We're going to go through Glen Feshie ski resort, and if time permits and the weather's nice, I might even get out there and get up on the slopes, not to do any skiing, but to see if I can find any mountain hare. I'm desperate to get some in the snow. If I don't get any on this trip, I'm definitely going to come back the next time we get some snow. So until next time, ta-ra.